You think changing your air filter every 3 months makes you responsible. It doesn't. In half the homes I walk into, that exact habit is quietly wrecking a $5,000 system, and the homeowner has no idea. Because on paper, they did everything right. If you want the kind of stuff HVAC techs know but never tell customers, subscribe now, because that's exactly what this channel is. All right, let's get into it. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Being on schedule with your filter doesn't mean you're doing it correctly. You think a clean-looking filter means clean air moving through your system. It doesn't. What it actually means is you probably bought the wrong filter for your system in the first place. And a filter that looks fine can still be choking your blower motor. You think cranking your thermostat down to 65 on the hottest day of the year cools your house faster. It doesn't. Your AC runs at the exact same speed no matter what number you punch in. So all you've done is force it to run for hours longer than it needs to. And that shows up as an extra $180 to $250 on your August bill for zero extra comfort. You think closing vents in rooms you don't use saves energy, like turning off a light. It doesn't. It does the opposite. It builds up pressure in your ductwork that your system was never designed to fight. And over a summer, that pressure alone can shave years off a compressor that's supposed to last 15. None of this makes you an idiot. This stuff is deliberately counterintuitive, because everything about your AC is marketed to feel logical when the actual mechanics work against you. That's exactly why so many smart, careful homeowners end up with the same expensive problems. Not because they were careless, but because they were following the wrong instincts with total confidence. So, let's talk about what's actually costing you money, starting with the stuff that's just annoying and ending with the stuff that can genuinely wreck your system or put your family at risk. First one, the filter thickness switch. You go to the hardware store. Your usual 1-inch filter is out of stock, so you grab a thicker one, maybe a 4-inch, because thicker sounds like it filters better. It feels like an upgrade. Here's what's actually happening. Your system was engineered around a specific static pressure rating for a specific filter depth. Drop in a filter your system wasn't built for, and you either restrict airflow so badly the blower has to work overtime, or you create gaps around the frame that let unfiltered air bypass the filter completely. Techs see this constantly, and it shows up months later as a frozen evaporator coil, which is a repair that runs $300 to $600 on its own. Second, you buy the highest MERV-rated filter you can find, because you figure more filtration is automatically better, especially if anyone in the house has allergies. It feels responsible, even protective. But most residential systems, especially anything installed before 2015, were never designed to pull air through a MERV 13 filter. That filter is so dense, it's like trying to breathe through a thicker mask. Your blower motor has to strain constantly to pull enough air through it. That strain translates directly into higher energy bills, and over 18 to 24 months, it can burn out a blower motor that would have otherwise lasted a decade. The fix isn't a worse filter. It's the right filter for your specific equipment, which almost nobody checks. Third, and this is the one that surprises people the most, running your AC constantly on the on setting instead of auto, because you assume constant airflow means more consistent filtering and cooling. It feels proactive, like you're helping the system do its job. What's actually happening is your fan runs non-stop, blowing air across a coil that isn't always cold, which means during off cycles, you're literally pushing humid air through your house and re-evaporating moisture the system just removed. Your home ends up feeling clammy despite lower temperatures. You run the AC even more to compensate, and your electric bill climbs $40 to $70 a month for a worse result than if you just left it alone. Fourth, ignoring the outdoor condenser unit because you figure the indoor stuff is what matters, so you let leaves, grass clippings, and mulch pile up around it every summer. It feels like a non-issue because it's outside. It's metal. What's it going to hurt? But that unit needs a full 2 feet of clearance to actually dump heat into the outside air. When it's blocked, the system can't release heat efficiently, so it runs hotter and longer to hit the same temperature. And the compressor, the single most expensive part in the entire unit, often $1,200 to $2,000 to replace, takes the abuse. Techs can tell within seconds of walking up whether a condenser's been neglected, just from how hard it's straining. And the last one, the one nobody suspects, DIY cleaning your coils with a garden hose because you watched a video and figured it's basically free maintenance. It feels smart, resourceful, exactly the kind of thing a capable homeowner should do. Here's the problem. The aluminum fins on that coil are incredibly delicate, and hose pressure that seems gentle to you is enough to bend them flat, which restricts airflow permanently in a way that can't be undone without replacing the entire coil. I've seen homeowners turn a $150 professional cleaning into an $800 coil replacement in about 4 minutes, with a hose, on a Saturday morning, thinking they were saving money. Stick around, because at the 9-minute mark, I'm going to show you the exact question that makes a dishonest tech visibly uncomfortable. Write it down when you get there. It's worth more than anything else in this video. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because I want you to picture what actually happens when a technician shows up at a house like this. In the first 60 seconds, before they've even opened the unit, they already know things about your system that you don't. They clock the dead grass around the condenser and think, nobody's touched this in 2 years. They notice the filter brand in the trash can by the garage and immediately know if it's the wrong size or MERV rating for your equipment. They listen to the unit cycle on and can tell from the sound alone whether the compressor is straining. Homeowners think the inspection starts when the tech opens the panel. It actually starts the second they pull into the driveway, and there's an internal monologue running the entire time that you never hear. Something like, okay, filters MERV 13 in a builder-grade system from 2011, that explains the blower noise. Vents are half closed in 3 rooms, that explains the pressure imbalance. Coils look untouched, but the fins by the base are bent flat, so someone's hosed this down themselves. None of that gets said out loud, because most homeowners don't ask, and most techs, not all, but a real chunk of them, aren't going to volunteer information that isn't going to result in a service call. Here's what you should be asking, and almost never do. What's the actual airflow restriction reading on this system? Not just, does it need cleaning? What's the manufacturer's rated static pressure for this unit, and where are we relative to that number right now? Is this a diagnosis based on something you're measuring, or something you're guessing at from experience? Those 3 questions alone separate a tech who's actually testing your system from one who's pattern matching to, homeowner probably needs a $400 service. And that's really the split you need to watch for. Red flags that someone's upselling versus someone who's actually helping you. If a tech recommends a full system replacement in the first 5 minutes before ever touching a gauge, that's a red flag. If every single answer somehow leads to the most expensive tier of service, that's a red flag. If they can't show you an actual number, a pressure reading, a temperature differential, an amperage draw, and instead just say, yeah, this doesn't look good, that's a red flag. Real diagnosis produces numbers. Vague concern produces upsells. Here's how you make sure you're not getting played. Before anyone even comes to your house, take photos, the filter you're currently using, front and back, so you know exactly what size and rating you've had in there. A photo of your outdoor unit from about 6 feet away, so you have a baseline of what before looked like. And if you can, a photo of the model and serial number plate on the indoor and outdoor units, because that's the information that tells you what your system was actually engineered to handle, and most homeowners have never even looked at it once. During the visit, ask for the static pressure reading before and after any work, in writing if possible. A legitimate quote breaks down parts and labor separately and references a specific diagnosed issue. Capacitor reading 30% below rated microfarads. Not a vague line item like AC not cooling efficiently, comprehensive service. A padded quote almost always bundles unrelated repairs into one number, so you can't tell what you're actually paying for. Here's your pro move, the one that changes how a tech treats you on the spot. When they arrive, Casually mention you know your filter's MERV rating and your system's rated static pressure. That's it. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to say one specific, correct technical detail early in the conversation. Techs recalibrate immediately once they realize you're not the homeowner who nods along to anything. It's not about being confrontational, it's about signaling you'll notice if the numbers don't add up. And to verify the work was actually done afterward, ask for a before and after reading on whatever they fixed. If they cleaned the coils, ask for a photo. If they replaced a capacitor, ask to see the old one. Any legitimate technician will have this instantly because they were already doing it for their own records. If you get resistance to a simple, "Can I see that?" that tells you everything. Remember what I said at the beginning of this video? That responsible-looking filter schedule that was quietly wrecking your system? Here's why that matters now. Every single mistake we just went through isn't a story about laziness. It's a story about doing the intuitive thing instead of the correct thing, over and over, with total confidence. That's the pattern. Not carelessness, misplaced confidence. So here's what you actually walk away with today. Your AC problems almost never come from neglect. They come from doing the wrong version of the right habit, confidently, for years. And now you know exactly what to check, what to ask, and what red flags mean someone's taking advantage of that confidence instead of earning it. If you want someone to actually check your static pressure, your filter rating, and your coil condition properly instead of guessing, book a real inspection, not a sales visit, and link is right below this video. That's the one thing to do today. After this, you're not the homeowner who gets talked into an $800 fix for a $150 problem. You're the one who asks the question that makes them stop and actually check.